welcome to the Knitted by Whitney YouTube channel. I have another pattern roundup video for you, and you can probably guess what it's going to be based on my seasonally appropriate attire. I am going to be talking about my top 20 size-inclusive Christmas sweaters. Now, I'm not calling these ugly Christmas sweaters because, let's be honest, when we spend so much time and energy and love knitting something, there's no way that it's ugly unless we've made a mistake. But if we've made a mistake, we're probably going to frog it or fix it. So these are not ugly Christmas sweaters. They are just Christmas sweaters. So first of all, I would like to touch on why this is just Christmas sweaters and why I haven't featured any other holidays. And the simple reason is there just weren't any available. I honestly couldn't find any non-Christmas themed sweaters, and I certainly couldn't find any that were size inclusive. So that is why I am only featuring Christmas themed sweaters. And the other reason why is that I celebrate Christmas. I am not a religious person, but Christmas is my winter holiday that my family and I celebrate, and it just seemed like a fun reason to do a pattern roundup. The other reason why I wanted to do a video about Christmas sweaters, specifically size-inclusive Christmas sweaters, is because I don't know about you, but the ugly Christmas sweater trend seems to have just exploded. And most of the ones that are available now are either miles away from what the ugly Christmas sweater trend started as, which was finding really unique, really colorful handmade sweaters in thrift shops, to lots of big brand companies capitalizing off the fact that people want to wear these sweaters. I'm thinking specifically of brands like Spencer's, who do, let's be honest, pretty rude Christmas sweaters, and those aren't really appropriate for all situations. If you like those, by all means, go for it. I am not one to tell people what they should and shouldn't wear. But if you're going to your office Christmas party, they're probably not the most appropriate thing to wear, especially if, you're there with your boss and your coworkers and everything. But also in my own searches online to find a ready-made plus size ugly Christmas sweater, I actually had a really hard time finding any in my size, and the ones that were available weren't actually sweaters at all. They were a weird polyester material that had been laser printed with an image of a sweater. It wasn't an actual knitted item. And that got me thinking, first of all, these are totally a gimmick meant to encourage people to buy these products leading up to Christmas and then either throw them away or put them in storage and forget about them forever. If you're lucky, you might take it out once a year to wear around this time of the year. So all of this searching online to find my own quote-unquote ugly Christmas sweater and not being able to find one in my size also sort of led me down the path of why did ugly Christmas sweaters actually start, and it made me realize that what one person thought was ugly and sort of made a joke out of wearing around Christmas time is actually at its core a sweater that somebody spent a lot of time and energy to make. Maybe they made it for themselves, or maybe they made it for somebody else, and through time or just through different tastes, it ended up at a secondhand store where somebody purchased it and wore it for the fun of it, to make sort of like a gag outfit for Christmas, which, if that's how you're going to wear a sweater, by all means, it means you're still wearing a sweater, even if you're wearing it as a joke. And it got me thinking, there must be some really incredible patterns out there that look like the quote-unquote ugly Christmas sweaters, or that sort of take all the joy and color and happiness and bright lights and everything that we associate with Christmas and put it together in a sweater. So that's kind of where this idea came from, and I thought it'd be really fun to share with you some really beautiful patterns that you could knit up as a Christmas sweater that are all size inclusive. So something interesting to note about all the patterns I'm going to share with you today is that they are all colorwork patterns. And I kind of looked specifically for colorwork patterns because that's what I associate with the typical Christmas sweater, because they feature really fun designs with lots of color, and they are going to be nice and cozy for the winter months because you're having that double layer effect from the stranding of the colorwork. Or they have motifs that are Christmassy themed, like reindeer or snowmen or something like that. So unfortunately, they are all colorwork sweaters. So if you're not into colorwork yet, maybe these might give you inspiration to start. Who knows? So let's get into these patterns. Number 1 on my list is my Into the Woods sweater. I just had to throw this pattern into the mix. Oh, this is my absolute favorite pattern that I've ever made. I actually finished it around this time last year, and I wore it for my Christmas photo with Doyle last year, which I'll pop in right here so you can see. It is just such a great sweater in general. Very size inclusive, very beginner friendly if you're just dipping your toe into colorwork. This is my very first colorwork sweater. I found it very enjoyable to make. I was not at all confused. I was not overwhelmed by the amount of colorwork. It's actually really nice because you don't do the colorwork rows every single row. So you get a bit of a break as you're dipping your toe into it. And then the rest of the sweater is just one color. So I chose to do my Into the Woods sweater in fall colors because that's what I had in my stash at the time. I was doing this as a stash busting project, but it would be super simple to turn this into more of a Christmassy themed sweater simply by changing the color scheme. So you could stick with the green background and do red trees, or you could do a white background and green trees. You could do a red background and gold trees. There's a lot of options for just changing the color scheme to make this look more Christmassy. But another way that you could make this more Christmassy is by adding some embroidery or beadwork. I think this would be super duper cute if you knit it in some classic colors. Let's say, for example, you did a white background and green trees. It would be really adorable if you sewed little star buttons at the top of each tree and added little beads along the tree just to have it look like there's ornaments on the tree. I just think it would be super cute, and it might take a bit of time to put all of that work into it, but at the end, you would have a simply gorgeous Christmas sweater. Number 2 on my list is the Boughs of Holly sweater by my friend Hannah of Herb Garden Knitwear. Hint, if you haven't seen it yet, I have a vlog that I just posted reviewing one of Hannah's patterns, and I had a lot of fun doing that vlog, and there's a little giveaway happening in that video, so I've linked it below. Her Boughs of Holly sweater is really beautiful. I love the colors that she used in her sample knit, which are dark green and white, but if you wanted to make this a little more Christmassy, you could very easily add some red to that by doing some duplicate stitch to create berries to go with the boughs of holly, or you could do a red and white sweater, you could do a green and red sweater, lots of options. And because the rows of colorwork are separated by some rows of plain one color knitting, it would be really easy to add in a third color for some of the colorwork rows, so you could make this a really colorful sweater. You don't have to stick to just the 2 colors if you want to branch out. Now, if the Boughs of Holly sweater is too much overall colorwork for you, you only want to do a colorwork yoke, you could try Garland by Stephanie Lotvin of Telly Bean Knits. This is a really cute pattern because it again has a similar leaf pattern detail to it, but it is just in the yoke. And this is one you could also get crazy with your colors because you have different rows of colorwork separated by a row or 2 of plain knitting. This sweater also gives you the option to do a short sleeved version or a long sleeved version. So if you live somewhere where a full length, full sleeved colorwork knitting pattern might be a little too warm, there is the option to just do short sleeves, which would be equally as cute. Number 4 on this list is Caribou by the Petite Knitter. Not to be confused with Petite Knit. The Petite Knitter is a knitter who lives up in Nunavut here in Canada. And you might have guessed it, none of it is very cold, very wintry, and this is going to be a super warm sweater because this one is all over colorwork from top to bottom. It features a really cozy turtleneck, and I absolutely love the caribou detail along the yoke of the sweater. It looks super cute, but it's also a nice classic look. If you just wanted to make this for the winter, you didn't want it as a specific Christmas sweater, it would be really easy to just do it in these really nice neutral colors that the petite knitter used. She used cream and mushroomy brown. Love that color combo. It's very natural. But if you want to bump up the Christmas level and make it a little more festive, how easy would it be to add some red noses to all of those caribou? It's like you're wearing a Rudolph sweater. Now, I'm not good at doing more than 2 strands of colorwork. I've actually never tried more than 2 strands. But if you are able to do 3-stranded colorwork, it would be super easy to add in that 3rd color and do red noses. Or if you want to take the easy way out like I would, just sew on some red buttons where the noses are, and then you've got Rudolph. You could either do it for all of them and have it be all over Rudolph sweater, or you could just pick one of them and make one of the caribou be Rudolph for a little detail. Numbers 5 and 6 on this list I am lumping together because they are both done by the same designer, and they are basically the same pattern done over 2 different styles of sweater. I'm talking about the Festive Yoke Pullover and the Festive Yoke Cardigan, both by Skein Deer Knits. Now, if you love colorwork sweaters or colorwork mittens or any type of colorwork project, Skein Deer Knits is the designer for you. She is excellent at designing Nordic inspired colorwork patterns, and they all look super sharp. They're beautiful. They look quite challenging, but I'm sure if you want to, you could handle it. I really love the Festive Yoke Pullover and Cardigan because it is a really classic 2-color design. Now, something to note, if you're going to do the cardigan, it is a steeked cardigan. I'm still not brave enough to do steeking yet, but it is on my list of things to knit. But if you are brave enough to go for it, this might be the one that you want to try. Number 7 on my list is the What's This sweater by Bad Wolf Girl Studios. So Megan of Bad Wolf Girl Studios is the same designer behind my Estrella sweater that I talked about in a previous video. I'll link that below. And at least in my experience of looking at colorwork patterns, I think she might be the queen of colorwork yoke sweaters because she has done some really incredible colorwork patterns, some of which use a heck of a lot of strands of yarn, so they are outside my comfort zone, but some of them are a little more doable and are not as complicated. But all of her designs are stunning. And the What's This sweater is no exception. This is for all of you who are fans of The Nightmare Before Christmas. Those of us who keep Halloween in our heart all year round, even when it comes to Christmas. I'm actually not a big Nightmare Before Christmas fan. I actually watched it for the first time when I was a little too young for it, and I got kind of scared by it. So it's not a movie that I look on fondly, but I know that there are a lot of fans of it out there. So this is the sweater for you. You can make your own Christmas Jack Skellington sweater. Number 8 on my list is the My Dear sweater by Tanya Barley. This is another Rudolph waiting to happen sweater. You could do it in just the 2 colors, or you could add that 3rd color to do the red noses, or take my suggestion from earlier of just sewing on some buttons to get that Rudolph effect. This one is a little less colorwork than the caribou sweater. It only has colorwork on the yoke. So again, if the all over colorwork is a little outside your comfort zone, this one is a little less, and you can have just a plain 1 color body and sleeves for the rest of your sweater. So it's a good one to sort of dip your toe into doing some colorwork. Number 9 on this list is the Yule Board by Lucienne Tricot. I hope I pronounced that correctly. So I love this pattern because it allows you to make some really cute festive motifs that look like you're using all kinds of colors together when really only using 2 strands per row, your base color and your secondary contrasting color. And I love it because you can get what looks like a really complicated and impressive sweater without having to do complicated techniques. As long as you are comfortable with your basic two-stranded colorwork knitting, you should be able to do this pattern no problem. And I really love that it looks impressive, but as a knit, it would be fairly straightforward. Number 10 on this list is a free pattern. This is Christmas with Olaf by Annalisa Filippi. This is such a cute design, and this one is technically not Christmas specific. This one is just a winter style sweater because snowmen are not really a Christmas thing, they're a winter thing. So this one is fun if you just want a wintry sweater, you don't want a Christmas specific sweater. And who doesn't love a free size inclusive pattern? I know I do. That's why I have my list of 50 free size inclusive patterns that I will link below in the description. But this is a really cute pattern that you could use all kinds of different colors to make it look festive if you chose to do that. So for example, the rows where you do the top hats of the snowmen, you could easily sub in a black yarn instead of using your contrasting color that you're using. For example, in the sample, it is white. And you could give your snowmen some black top hats. And if you wanted to get extra creative, you could add some scarves to the snowmen, either by knitting some little tiny scarves or making some out of fleece and sewing them on top to make it look more of like an applique style, which I think would look really cute. It would be some extra effort, but I think it would be worth it. Number 11 on my list is the Red Viburnum Pullover by Olga Putano Designs. This is another really cute dip your toe into colorwork style pattern because it's not all over, it's just on the yoke. And this one features some pretty large sections of colorwork, so it might be a really good option to practice catching your floats. And this pattern would also give you some practice doing a little bit of three-stranded colorwork because there's a few rows where you're using 3 colors, your base color and 2 contrasting colors. Now, I would make one change to this pattern based on what the sample looks like. I would make those berries white so that it looks like it's mistletoe, but that's just the romantic in me. It also looked equally nice with the red holly berries. Number 12 on my list is the Rockin' Reindeer Richard by Jackie Badger. This is such a fun sweater, and this is another one where you can get super creative with your color choices. I love the classic red, white, and green that the sample is knit up in, but I can easily imagine you playing around with color, maybe using brown for the reindeer, again adding some red noses to be Rudolph. And because the bottom half features all kinds of little single knit stitches that are in the contrasting color, it would be really fun to play around with a self-striping yarn or an ombre yarn so that it would change from top to bottom and allow you to have a really colorful and kaleidoscopic sweater, because that's what the Christmas sweaters are all about. It's showing off color and being really creative and playful. And although this sweater is knit in a short sleeve style, it would be fairly simple to add long sleeves if you wanted to have a long sleeve version. Now, number 13 on my list is for those of you who truly want the full ugly sweater experience, and that is the Holly Jolly Jumper by Cassie Greve. This is such a fun looking pattern. I can imagine going hog wild on choosing colors and making this look as crazy as you want it to. And I can imagine getting all of the compliments from people thinking that this is just a sweater that exploded into being, because it just looks so fun. I absolutely adore it. I also think it would be a really fun project to use stash yarn for, especially if you only have like little bits and pieces of wild colors that you've used in other sweaters or other projects, and just throw them all together and see what you get. It would be so fun. I love how the sample is knit up using some of those classic Christmas colors, such as red, white, green. But can you imagine this in like all of the cotton candy colors, like hot pink, bright yellow, purple, like a crazy blue? How fun would that look like? I actually think it would look like something from Whoville in Dr. Seuss's How the Grinch Stole Christmas. Now I kind of want to make one. Maybe if I have a bunch of crazy ends after a few more years of knitting, I might tackle this project and just have a wild sweater. Who knows? Now for those whose Christmas spirit might tend a little darker, number 14 on my list is the Krampus sweater by Kyrie Strickler. I know the Krampus story. I can understand how terrifying that would be to young children and how hopefully it would terrify them into behaving themselves, especially when it comes to the holiday season. Because I can't imagine being told that story as a child. That's so scary. But if there are people out there that relish the dark and gruesome and spooky and scary into Christmas, this might be the sweater for you. Now this sweater is a little more challenging than the others on this list because this one features intarsia. I personally haven't done intarsia myself. I have been told it can be pretty easy. I'm just a little too scared to try it myself just yet, but I will one day. I don't think the first time I use intarsia will be to create this scary German Christmas monster, Krampus, but if that's your thing, here's the sweater for you. And lastly, numbers 15 to 20 on my list are all part of a collection. This is the best of the worst ugly Christmas sweaters produced by Knit Picks and all designed by Kim Cameron. These are a fun collection of patterns. I have to admit my favorite one is the elf sweater because I love those stocking striped sleeves. They look really fun. And I think these are the closest to what's available in ready-made Christmas sweaters out there right now. So if you want that same look but you want to make something yourself, I think these are going to be the closest to what you're looking for. These all feature classic Christmas motifs like a Christmas tree or an elf or a reindeer, a snowman, and they are just those really fun novelty type sweater styles. If that's what you're looking for your next Christmas sweater, this might be it. Something that I really like about this collection of sweaters is that it also includes instructions on how to add some 3D elements to your sweater, such as some pom-poms to be ornaments on a Christmas tree, or some lights to be caught in the antlers of the reindeer, or you can just keep it simple with the 2D regular knitted sweater look. Either way, these options offer a lot of creativity. I really hope you enjoyed this fun and festive pattern roundup video. I just got the idea out of the blue and I thought, I want to do it. I know I've got a lot of videos coming out right now, but I really hope that this one sticks out to you. If you don't have any interest in making Christmas sweaters yourself, I just hope you watch it for the fun of it because, let's be honest, some of these are pretty crazy and they look super fun. Do I want to make them? Not necessarily, but I really love looking at them. Even though most of the sweaters on this list either use some crazy colors or create some really wild patterns to them, I also wanted to include some more traditional or some calmer designs to them, such as my Into the Woods sweater, that just add a little hint of holiday. They're not wild and crazy Christmas sweaters. So I hope that you found something in this video that you might want to make yourself, or just pass the video on to someone who might get a kick out of all of these wild sweaters. Whether you're going to be knitting a Christmas sweater or not, and let's face it, there's not that many days left before Christmas, so I know I'm not going to be knitting one of these crazy Christmas sweaters in time to wear for a holiday party or in time for Christmas, but plenty of time to knit one before next Christmas. If you are a new viewer, thank you so much for joining me. And if you're a returning viewer, thank you so much for coming back. I really appreciate it. I hope you have a wonderful holiday season. And just a reminder, I have Vlogmas coming out this year. So stick around, hit that subscribe button, ring the bell to get notified when my Vlogmas episodes come out. And I really hope to see you again soon. Everyone, take care. Happy holidays.